Hello and welcome to the first of our baristacare films. My name's Tim from United Baristas, and over the coming time we'll be unpacking some of the issues facing the coffee industry. I've been in regular conversation with coffee business owners about their rent, demands from landlord for payment, and how one might go about requesting a rent reduction during the COVID-19 lockdown. What's coming up is an edited Zoom chat with London property agent Rob Fay, who I've known for over 10 years. We hope that you find it both interesting and useful as you manage your landlord relationships in the coming weeks. Hi Rob, how are you?
Hi Tim, very well, thanks.
Hey, thanks very much for joining me today. Can you just introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about what you do?
Sure. My name's Rob Fay and I'm a director of Shackleton. We're a London-based property company specialising on retail, restaurant and leisure property.
I'm talking to you today because obviously the coronavirus pandemic has led to a lockdown and coffee shops currently aren't able to trade. And that's meant there's been a really wide range of landlord responses in terms of the collection of rent for the current quarter. Can you just maybe give us the lay of the land of what various landlords are doing at present?
Sure, yeah. There's been very much a mixed response. From the best landlords in central London, we've seen them reaching out to tenants, realising it's a partnership and actually being proactive rather than saying they're in a partnership and not really doing anything to prove it. So the likes of Argent and Cadogan, Grosvenor and others have given the rent-free period over this quarter rather than just sticking with what the government has already made mandatory, which is the rent deferment over this quarter.
So, and as I understand it, the government's intervention about not being able to remove tenants during the next 3 months has actually made the market maybe more uncertain rather than less. Can you just unpack that idea for me for a second?
Sure. So the moratorium has meant that over the March quarter, the landlord loses their right of forfeiture on the lease. So the tenant can not pay that quarter and the landlord loses their power to take the lease back. But what that has meant in some situations is that actually the negotiation over this period for a rent-free period or for any rent reduction has disappeared because many landlords are saying, well, look, this is deferred anyway. Let's just see what happens and pick up the conversation on the June quarter day.
So that places many coffee shops in a slightly awkward position because they might not have paid their March quarter rent, or they might be mindful of the next quarter's rent. What type of dialogue should they be entering into their landlord with right now?
Well, I think transparency and partnership are the key things. That the successful parties coming out of this crisis will be those that are working in partnership to preserve the businesses that are retail at the front door, but of course the connection between footfall and trade, turnover and rent have never become clearer. So the landlords and tenants need to be working together to make sure that the businesses stay open when they can, that they trade well when things get back towards normal, and that they have a sustainable business.
I've been talking with a number of coffee shop proprietors over recent weeks, and some of them are under real pressure from their landlord to pay rent, and also they are facing an existential crisis. They basically can't afford to pay rent and they're not sure how they'll be able to navigate the next weeks with the various cash flow demands that are on them. How would a coffee shop in that situation best talk to their landlord about the future prospects and create that sense of partnership?
As I said, they need to be very clear with the landlord about the situation, and my take on it is there's no harm in being transparent about the numbers, and the rent over this quarter shouldn't be an issue because that shouldn't have been paid. That will change again as we come up to June. The government will either announce that the moratorium continues for the next quarter, or the circumstances may be different again. We've also got the rating holiday that's already kicked in, so there's 12 months of business rates that aren't payable in this situation too. So those two elements should prove to be giving initial relief. What we'll see as we go towards the June quarter day and further on down, if this deferred rent does become payable, it's a whole new world and a whole different set of conversations will open up.
Can we maybe talk about that future, what's going to happen as lockdown starts to lift? Because obviously there's going to be, footfall is going to be down, there's going to be fewer offices at work, and there'll be fewer people on the street. And that means that turnover is likely to be down. How can businesses start to prepare for the future as we exit out of lockdown, but enter into a reduced turnover environment?
Well, firstly, I hope that the landlords out there will realise that if this quarter of rent is to be recalled over the near future, even over the medium term, that it's going to cause a huge amount of distress on businesses that are already going through incredibly challenging times. I'd like to think that the smarter landlords out there realise that deferment should never be recalled.
Hey, let's speculate a little bit about the future, because maybe there's going to be like a change in the coffee shop proposition. We're going to have to add social distancing measures and add sneeze guards onto counters, and presumably takeout might increase. Do you see any innovations that are likely to come through?
I've always favoured the turnover rent as something which is fair to both the landlord and the tenant. It means that the revenue and that comes through the tills, a percentage of that is payable as rent. So that creates the partnership between landlords and tenants. And in other countries globally, we see that work quite effectively. London really hasn't been very well advanced in that measure, but I think that will change over the next 12 months.
We want the coffee community to be supported during the lockdown and ready to flourish in a post-COVID-19 world. Find out more about support available to baristas and coffee professionals at baristacare.unitedbaristas.com.